Hey, welcome back for part 2 of the Sandridge video. I'm going to go through some of what I would think is a lineage of this particular Sandridge I own, and we'll talk about the warp feed a little bit too. So, that's the first thing that this gun that scares people, I think, about this gun, is this gun has been modified to run a warp feed. This was obviously a right-hand feed cocker, and they just pulled the feed neck out and drilled a new hole and shoved the feed neck in there to make it a warp feed style body. And the warp feed is a pretty ingenious idea. Tom K, Airgun Designs, they came up with that whole thing again. Those guys at Airgun do it again. It's a force feed loader that you obviously put a regular loader on top of, and then it will force the balls in here. So it's extremely fast, and it was pretty much, until the Halo came out, the only way you were ever going to shoot above about 8 to 10 balls per second, because a Revy only feeds about that. This thing holds probably about 25 paintballs at any one time, and will feed them at 15, 16, 17, right in there. And it was the only way you were going to shoot faster. Which brings me to exactly, actually no, never mind. We'll stick on the warp feed. You can see it just has a disc here, and the balls come in here, and it grips them with these rubber discs and forces them up the tube. That's how it works. It's pretty simple. If you think the RF switch system is cool, you'll like this. The board on this gun is wired to the warp feed. All the old warp feeds, you could do it with Angels, you could do it with and anything out back then. You would wire your warp feed to it, so every time you pull the trigger, the warp feed triggers. So it's just like the RF thing, but it's called IntelliFeed. The Angels even had it with Revies. You could run it plugged into the top, that solenoid cover bracket thing on an Angel, plugged into there and went straight into the loader. So, I mean, that's an old idea that's been brought back with the whole RF thing. But this is, I'll go where I was going before. The reason why I had to have this particular gun. You know, on PB Nation every once in a while, some noob will start up a thread saying, if money was no object, what would be your setup? And everybody's like, a Slater with a Pinocchio and a Sly kit and, you know, the lightest, the fastest, the best of everything. This gun is the 1998 incarnation of that exact thing. It's an autococker, which back then everybody believed were more accurate. We know that's not true anymore, but they believed it. So you can see why you would want an autococker that had an Angel frame. Like I said, the UL frame of the day has an Angel frame. It's electronic, so it shoots just as fast as any Angel, probably faster, due to the closed loop thing I was talking about before. It has eyes, like the Sandridge conversion on an autococker would make it ideal, but the trouble is you're still feeding out of a Revy, right? We'll just warp feed it, right? And then we'll be good to go. It has a Palmer's rag here, which is the best LPR at the time. It's just basically got the best of everything, and all in one. Like I said, one of these big long lists that somebody came up with back in 1998. The body modification has been very sloppy, and originally my plan was to redo a lot of that milling and re-anodize the whole gun and just get it done differently. But I love the Borg cube look too much. It's just way too cool. So I think I'm going to leave it because it just adds to the old schoolish feel of the whole thing. This cutout was probably to reduce weight. They milled the what was left of the feed neck and the sight rail off to try and get a real flat profile on top. Actually, it aims really well. And the the feed tube in here, it's just Loctited in there right now. These slots were very popular back then to show, because everybody loved how autocockers worked, and so that slot showing the hammer was probably very badass back then. It's a mini, so it's even lighter. Like I was saying, this is like the ideal gun for 1998. If some noob came up with a thread on PB Nation, if it was in existence in 1998, this would have been the gun to own. And that's why, in particular, I had to own this gun, because it's first off a Sandridge, and secondly, the coolest thing that anyone has ever seen from 1998. So, one thing that is funny here is, if you look at that guy right there, that's a fingernail clipper. You could tell they couldn't come up with an idea to close this off, so he wedged a fingernail clipper in there and glued it. It actually works just fine, which has tempted me not to play with it, because what I was planning on doing is just milling out a tiny little thing, drilling 2 little holes, and just putting it would take me like 10 minutes on the mill to do. And if I was going to get the whole thing re-anodized anyway, who the hell cares, right? But, I don't know if I'm going to do that, because like I said, I'm in love with the character of this gun so much, because it just is so cool. So, that's why I love this particular Sandridge, and why I had to own it. Now, here, I wanted to get into this back when I was talking about the warp feed, but I forgot until now. Most people are going to be like, well, how do you shoot left-handed with a warp feed, right? You get this thing in there, you're not going to get in there and shoot this thing left-handed, right? Well, warp feed is designed to be shot like with a regular gun. When you snap out, you try and keep your gun as vertical as possible, because if you tilt this way, then you got your hopper, and if you tilt this way, then you got your elbow out. So you keep it vertical, you know, and you snap out like this, right? Whereas a warp feed is designed to be shot at an angle like this. So you're always at an angle with a warp feed, because then when you snap out, like, you only expose like this much of the whole gun, and your face aiming it. So it's actually a really tight package, right-handed. Now left-handed, obviously, you know, with a gun like this, you just switch hands, and you just snap left now, right? Well, the warp feed is designed to be shot, so you're shooting it at an angle like this when you snap out, like this. When you shoot lefty, you turn the gun on its other side like this, and you snap out like this, keeping the gun either in the middle of your shoulder or on your right-hand shoulder. You just tilt the gun and shoot it like this. And therefore you can maintain that tiny, tiny sight package, or sight profile, when they're shooting at you. So, that's the warp feed, the Sandridge, and everything I love about old school guns in one gun. It's so cool. Anyway, hope you guys had a good time. I for sure had a good time. This is a great one. I'm keeping this one in my collection for a long time. But it's like the Paramount. It's the, I love it. Anyway, I hope I'm just not insane and that someone else enjoys these things too, because I do. So, you guys have a good one. Talk to you later.